You ever meet someone who's absolutely thriving, like they've got the love, the life, the peace? And you think, how did they pull that off? And then you realize they didn't cheat the system. They lived the system. They did the work when no one was watching. They showed up with love even when they weren't getting it back. They took the high road when it was the loneliest one. That's karma. Not the woo, crystal ball version. I'm talking about the real kind. The kind that doesn't come back in lightning bolts. It comes back in late nights you didn't waste, people you no longer chase, and a version of you that finally feels proud. He's not lucky, he's living proof. Let's talk about how he got there, and how you can too. He didn't find the perfect partner by getting lucky. He found her because he stopped chasing and started becoming. That's the whole secret people overlook when they talk about relationships, success, or even happiness. We think life will reward us once we finally get something, a person, a job, a lifestyle. But life and karma don't work like that. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's the real game. I've worked with thousands of people over the years, men and women. And the story's always the same. Someone says, "Why do I keep ending up with emotionally unavailable people?" And I'll say, well, what is it about your energy that keeps tolerating that? What are you putting out there that says this is okay? It's not blame. It's about ownership. If you want to change your results, you have to look at what you're contributing to the pattern. And the guy I'm talking about, in this story, did exactly that. He used to date like he was filling a quota. He would swipe endlessly, text a dozen women at once, and wonder why every connection felt so surface level. But when he stopped to really reflect, he saw that his energy was chaotic, distracted, transactional. He wasn't treating people with depth or curiosity. And so guess what? He wasn't attracting depth or curiosity in return. So he made a shift. He didn't get more charming. He got more grounded. He didn't suddenly become better looking. He just started showing up in a way that was real, present, intentional. He cleaned up his communication, started leading with honesty, started walking away from situations that felt like a performance. And the craziest thing happened suddenly. People started treating him differently, respecting him more, feeling safe around him. He didn't change his luck. He changed his level. That's karma, not some spiritual punishment or reward system. Karma is the mirror of your mindset. It's the energy loop you're constantly in. When you show up with integrity, with clarity, with kindness, not because you want something, but because that's just who you've become, life starts to echo that back to you. Now, does that mean every day becomes perfect? Of course not. This isn't a hack. It's not about perfection, it's about alignment. When he started becoming the kind of man he admired, he stopped needing validation from people who couldn't see his worth. He stopped tolerating breadcrumb behavior. He stopped asking, how do I get them to like me? And started asking, do they actually bring peace and value to my life? People notice that shift, even if they don't consciously understand it. You've probably met someone before who didn't have to say much. But the way they moved, the way they listened, the way they carried themselves, it just pulled you in. That's what happens when your internal world is sorted out. You don't chase, you attract. But not because you're playing games. Because you've made peace with who you are and how you show up. That's what karma rewards. And if you're not seeing the results you want in your love life, your friendships, or your purpose, it's not a reason to beat yourself up. It's a signal. It's asking you to pause and take inventory. What kind of energy am I putting out there? Am I being intentional? Am I being clear? Am I leading with the same quality I hope to receive? Because the truth is, when you elevate your standard of behavior, your entire life starts to shift, not overnight, but inevitably. And the best part, you won't need to convince anyone of your value anymore. Your presence will speak for itself. He used to think being a good guy meant you finished last. That kindness meant weakness. That showing up consistently, caring deeply, and being honest would somehow make you less desirable. And to be fair, life seemed to confirm that belief for a while. He watched people play games, manipulate, and ghost, and somehow still get ahead. Meanwhile, he felt like he was stuck in a loop, giving, showing up, doing the right thing, and getting nothing in return. But here's what he didn't realize at the time. Karma doesn't show up when you want it to. It shows up when you're ready. You see, most people want immediate return. If I'm good, I want to see results now. If I give love, I want love back right away. If I'm patient, I want life to reward me this week. But that's not how it works. Real goodness, real growth, doesn't come with instant validation. It's quiet, it's lonely at times. You show up day after day, you hold yourself to a higher standard, and it feels like no one notices. But someone is watching you are, and so is the universe. And over time, that invisible compound interest starts to pay off. This guy didn't get the life he wanted by manipulating people into liking him. He got it by refusing to become bitter when the world didn't immediately reward his efforts. He stayed kind when it would have been easier to shut down. He stayed respectful even after being disrespected. And in those moments, he was training his character, strengthening his values. And without realizing it, he was slowly separating himself from the noise. Because here's the truth: good guys don't finish last. They finish ready. Ready for the person who can meet them at their level. Ready for the opportunities that require trust, responsibility, and emotional maturity. Ready for a life that isn't built on shortcuts or surface wins, but on depth, alignment, and integrity. There's a different kind of confidence that comes from knowing you didn't cheat the system to get where you are. He began to walk differently, not with arrogance, but with peace. The peace of someone who knew he had nothing to prove. Because when you stop trying to be liked and start focusing on being real, something shifts. People start to trust you more. Opportunities come not because you demanded them, but because you were the obvious choice. And what's funny is, the same people who overlooked him before started circling back. Not because he suddenly changed into someone new, but because he'd grown into someone so secure, so grounded, that they could feel it. But by then, he wasn't chasing crumbs. He wasn't interested in going backward. He had a new radar, one that only tuned into people who matched the love he was already giving himself. That's the long game. That's karma's way. It doesn't reward noise. It rewards consistency. And that's what most people give up on too soon. They think, I've been good, I've been honest, I've done the work, why hasn't it happened yet? But that's like going to the gym once and expecting abs. You keep showing up, not because of a guaranteed outcome, but because you've decided the way you show up matters more than how fast you win. Eventually, he didn't need karma to prove anything. He was already proud of who he'd become. And that pride, that quiet knowing, that's what made him magnetic. That's what turned heads. Not the flash, not the tricks, but the truth of someone who didn't just talk about being a good man. He lived it. Every time he let someone treat him like an option, he was teaching the world exactly how to treat him. And for a long time, he didn't even realize it. He thought he was being chill, easygoing, understanding. He thought giving people chance after chance made him the bigger person. But all it really did was send a message. My standards are flexible. My boundaries are negotiable. You can disrespect me, and I'll still be here. And that message, whether spoken or not, was received loud and clear. We teach people how to treat us, not by what we say we want, but by what we allow. You can tell someone you value honesty, but if you stay after they lie to you, your actions speak louder. You can say you want commitment, but if you continue investing in someone who won't commit, you're reinforcing the opposite. That's the real karma in play, not some cosmic punishment, but the loop we create through the behaviors we tolerate. He started noticing that every relationship he had felt one-sided. He was doing the emotional lifting. He was always the one reaching out, making plans, initiating conversations, and deep down he felt resentful. But he didn't act on that feeling. Instead, he told himself stories. They're just busy. They're bad at texting. Maybe if I'm more patient, they'll come around. And that gave people permission to continue showing up inconsistently, because there were no real consequences. Karma's funny like that. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And it whispered through his exhaustion, through his self-doubt, through that quiet voice asking, "Why do I keep ending up here?" The answer wasn't in them, it was in him. In the way he was showing up, in the fact that he was so afraid of losing people that he forgot to value himself in the process. Eventually, he hit a wall. One more ignored message, one more last-minute cancellation, one more conversation that left him feeling unseen. And something clicked. Not in a dramatic, movie-style explosion, but in a quiet decision, a shift in identity. He realized, if I want people to treat me like a priority, I have to start acting like one. Not to them, to myself. So he started drawing lines, not out of anger, out of clarity. He stopped over explaining himself, stopped entertaining half-effort. When someone showed disinterest, he didn't chase, he let them go. When someone's words didn't match their actions, he paid attention to the actions. And slowly, the pattern began to change, not overnight, but steadily, because he wasn't reacting anymore, he was choosing. That's the power of karma in relationships. Not just who you attract, but who you allow to stay. And when you raise the standard, something incredible happens. The wrong people remove themselves, and the right ones rise to meet you. People feel it when you know your worth. You stop needing to convince anyone of it. Your presence does that for you. It's not about being cold. He didn't stop being kind. He just became clear. Clear on what he needed. Clear on what he deserved. And most importantly, clear on what he would never tolerate again. And in that clarity, he found peace. Not because everyone he met treated him perfectly, but because he finally did. The version of him that used to wait around, overgive, and hope for scraps, that guy's gone. And karma didn't take him out. He outgrew him. With every no he said to behavior that didn't serve him, he was saying yes to a higher level of love, of connection, of life. And that's how karma really works. It gives you what you demand from yourself first. He thought losing her was the worst thing that had ever happened to him. She was the one he'd pinned his hopes on. The one he thought made him whole. So when she left, abruptly, maybe even coldly, his entire world collapsed. It wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was the unraveling of his identity. He spiraled, asked himself a million questions, tried to replay every moment to figure out where he went wrong. He didn't sleep. He stopped eating right. He smiled less. For a while, he disappeared into himself. He thought he'd never bounce back. But what he didn't know then was that this wasn't the end of him. It was the beginning. Pain has a way of stripping away everything unnecessary. When you're in it, there's no pretending, no distractions strong enough to mask it for long. It exposes what's real and what's been broken for a while. That's what happened to him. Once the shock wore off, he started to realize that maybe she hadn't been the perfect partner. That maybe the version of love he was chasing wasn't actually love. It was attachment, validation, fear of being alone. And that realization didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, quiet moments, a conversation with a friend, a journal entry that cut deeper than he expected. It hurt, but it also started to heal. We think karma is about retribution, about someone getting what they deserve. But sometimes karma doesn't show up as revenge. It shows up as a lesson, a mirror, a turning point. That relationship didn't break him. It broke open everything inside him that needed to be faced. His insecurity, his people-pleasing, his unwillingness to speak up when things felt off. That heartbreak, it was a gift wrapped in pain. Because through it, he got to meet someone he'd ignored for years. Himself. He stopped asking why she walked away and started asking why he stayed so long in something that didn't feel right. He stopped pointing fingers and started taking inventory, not in a self-blaming way, but in a responsible one. What did I ignore? What did I settle for? What was I so afraid of that I let my boundaries dissolve? And as he answered those questions, he slowly built himself back, stronger, wiser, less reactive. He didn't become cold, he became clear. This is the part most people miss. Growth doesn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it feels like heartbreak, rejection, failure. But those moments are fertile ground. The breakdown is often the beginning of the breakthrough, because when everything falls apart, you're left with one thing: the truth. And if you can face that truth, if you can sit in the discomfort long enough to learn from it, that's when you start to evolve. He did. He began to show up for himself in ways he never had before. He started saying no to things that drained him. He started speaking up when something felt wrong. He took care of his health, not to impress anyone, but because he wanted to feel alive again. And eventually, he didn't wake up thinking about her anymore. He woke up thinking about what he wanted to create, how he wanted to feel, and who he was becoming. And one day, without even realizing it, he met someone new. But this time, he didn't lose himself. He didn't overextend or overexplain. He didn't confuse chemistry with compatibility. Because he'd done the work, he'd earned his peace, and he could finally love from a place of wholeness, not need. The irony: if she hadn't left, he might still be stuck in a version of himself that wasn't really him. Karma didn't destroy him, it redirected him. Through the fire, he didn't just survive, he transformed. He used to tell himself that the past didn't matter, that what he did in previous relationships, or how he used to behave, wasn't relevant anymore. That was his way of avoiding responsibility, of dodging the uncomfortable truth that patterns don't just disappear because we want them to. He thought that if he could move on quickly, act like none of it affected him, then it wouldn't. But karma has a long memory, not because it wants to punish, but because it wants to teach. He'd ghost people. He'd lead them on, breadcrumb them, then pull away the moment things got too close. He never gave real reasons, just disappeared, then acted confused when it happened to him. When someone he liked suddenly stopped replying, when someone gave him mixed signals or made him feel not good enough, he was outraged. Why would they do that to me? He'd ask, not realizing he'd written that exact script before, just in someone else's story. That's the thing, your past isn't irrelevant. It's not a life sentence either, but it is a clue. It's a mirror. You can try to ignore it, justify it, or numb it, but eventually, the same emotions you caused in others come knocking on your own door. He started to feel what it was like to be on the receiving end of inconsistency. He experienced the silence he used to deliver. He felt the ache of uncertainty, the confusion of wanting answers and getting none. And that was his wake-up call. Not because he deserved pain, but because pain is often what breaks the cycle. You can't heal something you won't admit is broken. For the first time, he stopped making excuses and looked inward, not with shame, but with curiosity. Why did I behave that way? Why was I so afraid of intimacy? Why did I treat vulnerability like a threat? The more he unpacked those questions, the more he realized that his past wasn't just about what he did to others. It was about what he hadn't yet forgiven or faced in himself. So he stopped running. He reached out to people he'd hurt, not to reopen wounds, but to own them. He apologized without expecting anything in return. He started having real conversations about who he used to be and why he wanted to be different now. And more importantly, he began holding himself accountable in the present. When he felt the urge to pull away, he leaned in instead. When fear told him to hide, he chose honesty, and karma responded. Not in a grand, dramatic way, but in the little shifts, in the peace he felt when he didn't leave situations messy, in the new relationships that came from a clean, open place, in the pride he started feeling. Not because he was perfect, but because he was real. He wasn't trying to outrun his past anymore. He was integrating it, learning from it, using it as a map instead of a shadow. Because here's the truth, your past doesn't define you, but it does follow you. Until you do the work to understand it. Until you face the version of yourself that made choices from fear, ego, or immaturity. Once you do that, karma stops feeling like a punishment and starts becoming your partner. It becomes the gentle reminder to keep growing, to keep choosing better. And he did. He stopped pretending that his past had no impact. Instead, he used it to shape his future, not by erasing it, but by evolving from it. And in doing so, he became the kind of person who didn't fear karma anymore, because he knew he was finally on the right side of it. He doesn't walk around with anxiety anymore, wondering if karma is going to catch up with him. He's not scanning the past for mistakes or living in fear that something bad is going to come back around. Why? Because he knows how he's been showing up. He knows his hands are clean. He's been doing the right thing even when no one was watching, and that brings a kind of peace that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed. There was a time when he lived differently, when he would bend the truth to protect himself, when he'd ghost instead of have hard conversations, when he'd entertain people he had no intention of committing to, just to avoid being alone. Back then, he was constantly on edge, looking over his shoulder, emotionally speaking, feeling like maybe he didn't deserve something good, like at any moment the rug could be pulled from under him, and deep down, he knew why, because he was building his life on shaky ground. He wasn't being honest, not with others, and definitely not with himself. But that version of him is long gone. Not because time passed, but because he made a decision. He got tired of the anxiety, tired of carrying secrets, regrets, and justifications. So he changed, quietly, gradually, but fully. He stopped cutting corners emotionally. He had the conversations he used to avoid. He started telling people the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. He stopped playing games and started living in a way that matched the kind of love and respect he wanted to receive. And at first, it was hard, because doing the right thing doesn't always get applause. Sometimes it gets silence. Sometimes it means losing people who were only around because they benefited from the old version of you. Sometimes it means walking away from easy attention because it doesn't align with your integrity. But he's stuck with it. And something incredible happened. His nervous system calmed down. His relationships got simpler. His sleep got deeper. His confidence grew, not because everyone suddenly praised him, but because he knew who he was becoming. That's the quiet reward of living clean. You don't have to keep spinning stories. You don't have to second guess whether you said the right thing, did the right thing, or treated someone with respect. You already know. You know you left things better than you found them. You know you were kind, even when it cost you. You know you walked away without burning the bridge. That knowing becomes a kind of inner gravity. It grounds you. People often think confidence comes from charm or success or attention, but the deepest confidence, it comes from alignment, from knowing your actions match your values, that you don't have to keep up a persona because who you are in private and who you are in public are the same. He doesn't need to prove anything anymore. His presence carries the weight of someone who's done the work and kept their word. And sure, he still makes mistakes. He's human. But now he owns them, quickly, openly. He doesn't hide or deflect. He apologizes when he needs to. He listens when it's uncomfortable. He corrects course instead of pretending nothing happened. That's part of having clean hands too. It's not about being flawless. It's about being accountable. So no, he's not worried about karma, because he's aligned with it. He's living in a way that if karma knocks on his door tomorrow, he'll open it with a clear conscience. And that clarity, that peace, that's what makes him magnetic, not just to others, but to opportunities, to love, to everything that matches the frequency of someone who lives without secrets, without shame, and without fear. So, here's the truth we've been circling all along. Karma isn't some cosmic scoreboard keeping track of your good and bad deeds. It's much closer than that. It's in how you treat people when they have nothing to offer you. It's in how you hold yourself when no one's applauding. It's in the standards you uphold, the boundaries you enforce, the silence you walk away from instead of begging to be heard. This man, he didn't cheat the system. He became the system. He's living proof that when you show up with integrity, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely, you build a life that doesn't just look good, it feels good. Because confidence isn't loud, it's quiet, it's peaceful. It's the knowing that you're not afraid of karma showing up, because you are karma showing up. You're the result of every choice you made when it was hard. Every time you were kind when you could have been cruel. Every time you leveled up instead of lashing out. And the best part, you don't need to wait for someone else to change. You don't need to hope for luck or timing. You already have the power. You can become the version of yourself who attracts the right people, walks away from the wrong ones, and sleeps well at night knowing your hands and your heart are clean. That's not magic. That's karma. And it's real. You just have to be brave enough to live it.